So you're planning on living in your vehicle for a trip around this giant country, but how do you fit a house in your car? So I've made a list of 10 things that you need to think about when building your touring rig. And some of these things you're not gonna think are that important. And I wish that there was some random dude on YouTube screaming at me saying, "Fix these things now before you leave." Most controversial opinion, spend the hard-earned money on actually traveling. Don't need a because the only benefit it has is that it looks cool. Number 7 is probably one that is going to make or break your trip. I'm not some expert, but what I have done over the last 2 years is driven around Australia pretty much 2 times. Over 100,000 Ks, I've tested, rebuilt, designed 4 different touring setups that I've then ripped out, using the notes that I'd taken, rebuilt, and made a better version than the time before. And no, before you ask me in the comments, I'm not telling anyone what car they should buy or whether you should drive in a 4-wheel drive, van, caravan, anything. That is not for me to tell you, that is for you to figure out yourself. But what I can actually help you with is things that you actually need in your fit out and some tips and tricks to make sure you make the right decision the first time. And if you stay around to the end of the video, I'll also be sharing how much we spend on our 11-month lap around Australia so it can help you. I'm telling you, I do build on a budget, but I like to include some creature comforts like what you would have at home because I'm normally on the road for like 3 to 10, 6 months at a time. And I really do not want an excuse in that time to be staying at like hotels or Airbnbs and stuff. I want to stay on the road in my car, adventuring as much as possible. And in one of the next videos, I'm going to be using the list from this video to design what I think is going to be my perfect touring setup. So make sure you subscribe to see that. Now into the list. And I'm starting the list off with number 1, which is probably my most controversial opinion about driving around Australia, and that is that you do not need a tray and canopy because for some reason it has now become the minimum requirement according to a lot of companies and other creators that you must have a tray and canopy to be able to drive around Australia. Don't need a tray and canopy! You do not need one. I'm almost up to my 3rd lap in this tub and I'm still not getting a tray and canopy. So I'm not saying that a tub is in any way better. What I am saying is if you have a tub, don't think that you have to go and upgrade to a flat tray and a canopy just because that is what everyone else does. And if you have a tray, definitely do not go to a tub. But I'd rather stick with what I have and spend that hard-earned money on actually traveling, not just changing how the back of my setup works. And that's enough of you only ones. The next ones are for everyone, no matter what kind of setup you're driving. And I kind of think this second one is probably the most important thing to think about before you even start building and buying stuff for your setup. And that is how long you are planning on traveling for. Obviously plans change, it can go longer, it can go shorter, but you should be thinking, are you going for that one? But you should probably fall into one of these categories. Are you using your annual leave and going 1 to 2 weeks, even up to a month at a time? Or are you doing a couple of months, 1 to 6 months, and then past that, you're going crazy long duration with your like 6 to 12 months. And that is where you will probably want to splash out the cash and really get some good gear. So have a good hard think and think how much you're actually going to be traveling every year in your setup. Because for the rest of this video, I'll typically be giving a cheaper option and a more expensive option because I know not everyone is planning year-long trips, but I still want this advice to be helpful to you for building your setup. This chair really makes some farty noises. So if you hear farts, it's not me, it's the chair. And number 3 is your cooking setup. I'm not talking about going and buying like super expensive Webers and induction cooktop or a smoker or something crazy like that. I'm more talking about you want your setup to be hassle-free. How I do this is I have my induction cooktop hard mounted to my bench top, which is pretty overkill, but how I see people do it and how I will probably do it in like the 60 series is just having a cooking tub where you've got your spatulas, your oil, your cooker, your main pan, just so when you get to camp or if you're cooking on the side of the road, it's a 2-second job to quickly pull your tub out, get everything ready, and you are good to go. Because if not, every time you drive through a town, you're gonna see a bakery or a McDonald's and you're going to be wasting your money on food. Even though supporting a local bakery is kind of your obligation, you still wanna be trying to cook as much breakfast, lunch, and dinner as you can, stay on the road for longer. And number 4 is your water tank setup. How much water do you need? Do you need an expensive water tank? Well, I cannot answer how much water you need because that really changes depending on how many of you are traveling, if you're showering with the water, how much water you drink each day. But the way I like to think about about it is how many times would you like to have to find water to fill your water tanks up? Obviously, the bigger the water tank, the less times you're gonna have to fill it up. We have a 75-litre wheel arch one, which goes up against the headboard in the tub, and we fill that up about every 2 weeks. But we do also normally carry extra drinking water in like a 10-litre jerry, which we fill up pretty much every week, if not every few days. And my water tank has an electric 12-volt pump, which is hooked up to my Enerdrive Adventurer, but you do not need a setup like that. People love the water bladders that go in the back seats of your car, and that can just be gravity fed, or you can go to Bunnings and grab these big blue tub that everyone raves about, because you can drink out of them and you can screw in a little tap at the bottom, so you could even put it on your roof and have a little shower under it. If you're on a budget or if you're in a van, 2 of those will honestly do you so well, and a good way to save some money. And the bonus to those cheaper options is you actually know how much water is in your water tank, whereas my setup, I'm just guessing at the moment because I haven't got a tank sender because of the weird shape. So there is positives to the expensive and obviously negative. And number 5 is pretty much just a product recommendation. I have no recommendation on brand, but just get one, you will not regret it. And that is a pop-up bucket, AKA a pop-up sink. To pick your sizing, I would figure out what your biggest pan or pot or plate is, the biggest diameter, and then find one that it actually fits in, because if not, you're gonna be pouring soapy water into your pan and cleaning it, and it turns into a nightmare. And because I said pop-up bucket, I know that you're gonna wanna cut a hole in a bit of wood and drop the bucket in there. Please don't do this. Everyone that I've met that has done this regretted it, because their bucket broke. They couldn't find a bucket to put in the hole, and now they just have a hole in a table so the table can't table. Yes, I just said that sentence. I would much more rather have that table space and then just be able to put a bucket on top of it, because the only benefit the drop hole one has is that it looks cool. But as you'll see in the next point, table space is pretty bloody important. And this is one that I've probably talked about way too much on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. For table space, take whatever you think is ample table space, add an extra 50% to it. Because I guarantee when you're cooking dinner, partners, chopping up salad stuff, if you don't have enough table space, your hard-earned beer is gonna end up in the sand. Or your keys in the sand, or your camera in the sand. Not fun. So yes, do include your tailgate or your barn doors as a table, but do yourself a favor, get something big like this front runner one, or if you want to go even bigger, get one of those plastic lifetime ones or something like that from Bunnings. And for bonus point, make a spot for it so you don't have to lift stuff off your table as you're unloading your rear setup. An easy way to do it is just get a bit of ply, build a border around it, and put it on top of your rear drawer setup, and then you can just slide your table in and out, and it acts as a little false floor. Or you can go a level further and get a front runner table which slides in underneath your roof rack. I think K-On also offer a bracket for all different types of tables, so you don't have to buy their actual table. For my setup, I have this table, I have my tailgate, I have my bench top inside the canopy, I have the bench seat, and I have another table that is going on the rear wheel carrier, which is getting installed soon. And yes, that is a lot of table space, but I do not regret any of it. And number 7 is probably one that is going to make or break your trip around Australia. And it is what you sleep in. What you sleep in. Because if every single night you're having a pretty average sleep, after a couple of weeks or a month or 2, you're probably gonna get pretty over it. So I've made a list of dot points here that are things that you should take into account when thinking about if you're gonna go rooftop tent, swag, camper trailer, caravan, Iveco, caravan on the back of a truck, ground tent, anything. Take these into account because you will thank. Number 1, must be able to pack up with most of the bedding in it, full stop. A swag, great for this, you can keep everything in there. Some rooftop tents, you can. Definitely not all of them. Look at reviews, because people will tell you if it doesn't, the company will lie. Number 2, how comfy is the mattress? The answer is probably not very. They all say how thick they are, that it's high density foam, but if you're a side sleeper like me, chances are your shoulder probably gonna go through the mattress and onto the floor. So you are going to need a mattress topper for very long-term travel. And is the mattress topper going to be able to pack up with the rest of the bedding? And then number 3 is how quick is it to set up and pack down? My rooftop tent here, pretty easy to set up and pack down. My next version of the rear setup, insanely easy to set up and pack down. A swag is pretty easy. A ground tent, not easy. Camper trailer, not easy. Caravan, easy. I think in terms of best bang for your buck, a swag or a cheap rooftop tent, probably the easiest option. And then number 4 is how does it go in the wind? I'm telling you right now, no matter how good people claim their rooftop tent is in the wind, especially if it's a soft top, meaning not one side is hard, it's going to be pretty bad. And even ones that have a massive hard shell, like the clam top pop ones, if you get a bit of a cross breeze, not going to be the best in the wind. Whereas a swag that you can hide around a corner or hide next to your car is probably going to be way better in the wind. And number 5 is the price compared to how many nights you're actually gonna spend in it in a year. If you're gonna grab a $4 grand rooftop tent, but only stay in it for 2 weeks a year, that's $285 a night that you are spending to sleep in that rooftop tent. So maybe it could be a better option to get something a bit cheaper. And the final one is, can you stealth camp? One option that I haven't even outlined in this list is a wagon setup. Honestly, that is my dream setup, and I will probably get there one day. But being able to stealth camp in a place that is better that people don't know that you're camping there,
may or may not be frowned upon or illegal,
is going to save you so much money when you're doing your full lap. So it is honestly worth, maybe if you have a wagon, having a little mattress you can take out of your rooftop tent or out of your swag and chuck over your drawer setup for those few nights where you have too many beers in town and you want to stay in town for free. So I'm inserting this, and I thought of a really good point that I didn't talk about in this video, and that is fridges. I've done everything. I've done the massive 85-litre King's upright. I've done the 110-litre dual zone. And then most recently, I've done a 25-litre like chest fridge and a 15-litre center console fridge freezer. And honestly, that was closest to my favorite setup I've done so far. That was for one person because I was on the little trip by myself. But for 2 people, I'm thinking a small upright, you know, go from 35 litres to 65 litres with a separate freezer. That is the bit that will actually do wonders, because there's so much stuff that you can freeze, like your veggies, your meat, and just defrost as you need it. And then you only have the essentials like salads and sauces and stuff in the upright fridge, which just kind of makes it stack nicer. And you fit so much more in a tiny freezer than you do in the upright's freezer section at the top. So you can use that as extra fridge space if it has the removable front. And that is just my personal preference. If you have a whole family, that's obviously a completely different story. But for just 2 people, you'll be surprised how much you can pack into a smaller fridge, especially with that separate freezer. Now we are back onto the main points again. Number 8 is personal for me. I would recommend DIYing anything you can that is not like crucial to the car functioning. Like your camping setup, installing your rooftop tent, installing your solar panel with the correct wiring, drawer, water tank, water pump, because inevitably when you are off grid, something is gonna break, because this country is more dirt roads and gravel roads and sand tracks than it is actual roads apparently. Well, that is my experience anyway. So it is gonna be such a help to you that you know how these things are constructed, installed, built, so you can actually have a crack at fixing them yourself, or at least fixing them enough until you get to the next town so you can get them fixed properly. Whereas if you just pay someone to do your entire fit out, you're gonna have no idea where the fuses are, where the wiring runs go for pumps and lighting and stuff. So stuff is gonna go wrong and you're not gonna have any clue on how to fix it, and it's gonna be very expensive for someone to figure out how to fix it. I'll move the camera around here so you can have a peek at the sunset while I'm doing the last few. And number 9 is have a spot for everything. Even though all of your life's belongings are only in a car, you'll be surprised at how quickly it turns into a bomb site, how quickly you lose stuff. And then when it comes to doing a really easy daily task like doing the dishes, but you threw your sponge in the back last time and you can't find it, they become really frustrating. So keeping your rig tidy and having spots for stuff or canvas bags that you put everything in will make your life and your days way more enjoyable. And that is why I invented this duffel bag that unrolls into a hangable closet with perfect organization. It has hard dividers. As you open it and pull stuff out like this, nothing else comes out with it. It hangs on the back of your seats, like your passenger seat, your driver's seat, and it's a really handy way to store your clothes while you're on the road. This is my product. I designed it myself, I invented it, and I shipped them from my house in Perth, and they're about to be back in stock. So click the little link below if you want to get on the wait list for when they're restocked, because they've been out of stock for 3 months now, which I know has been frustrating a lot of you. So make sure you get on this list or you'll probably miss out again. And this final point isn't about something you can do in your setup, but it is going to help you immensely because it's information I wish I had before I went away, and that is how much it actually costs to drive around Australia. This figure is for 2 people for 11 months, and we weren't roughing it. We were having a good time, eating good food and everything, and it cost us $36,000. No, I'm not saying yours is going to cost the same, and that probably sounds like a lot of money, but that is everything for living for 11 months. Rent, that's accommodation, activities, drinking, eating out, food shopping. So when you think about it like that, it becomes a lot cheaper. And realistically, I wouldn't put it past one person being able to do it for 10 grand or under. But I do encourage you to keep track of how much you're spending on stuff every single week. Most online bankings do like a little weekly recap now and tell you what you're spending your money on. And you can do stuff like, instead of drinking beers, pub with your friends that you meet, taking them down to the beach and having a beer on the beach. Cheaper, more fun, and you might as well well enjoy nature because you're out in the bush. So you don't have to budget like crazy, but where you can, try and save a little bit of money so you can stay out for longer and have more fun. This was a really different video to what I normally make, and I've been wanting to make something like it for a long time. And I will probably make more videos like this in the future if this one gets 500 likes. So maybe it might even just be a Q&A. Leave some comments below. Thank you for watching and hit subscribe. Look at that sunset turning on.